We are back at it again. It's so fascinating, right? How there's this odd culture that doesn't create, like, it's this culture of taking popular thing, making it for the widest audience, shoving it out. Like, we're not trying to compete here, we're just trying to make the same mass producible form of art. And it's like, okay, so you can keep doing that Western company. We'll move to the, the Japanese into anime, which is weird, but how you combat this is making a better product. And then they're like, oh no, in fact, we're going to now move to anime and try to censor it. Like, again, we're not going to make something better. We're not going to make a better product. We'll just move across the seas and censor it, makes it the same thing as our product. And again, that's how business is done as far as entertainment. Like, no one wants to create, no one wants to innovate, no one wants to make anything new. People just want to lower everything else to the lowest common denominator. So all anime and manga to be censored in Japan by head of Visa by bullying retailers. Let's give this a watch.
Head of Visa Japan proudly admits to bullying retailers into censorship, all in the name of brand protection. The man that said this looks like this, and first impression.
Yeah, and again, you have like, oh my, I can't even fucking look this goofball in the eyes. Fucking the soy. You can just see the soy, and notice how this is just a white person. Like, this isn't a Japanese, but he's head of Visa Worldwide Japan president and representative director. But he's a white guy, probably from California. Now, do I believe this is being done for ideological reasons? Maybe, but I mean, advertisers do this thing, and I guess payment processors do this thing where they want to leverage power over, other over like forums on the internet and over like other companies. Like, it's just a power play.
He looks like a stereotypical supervillain from a comic book. Like, if someone told me this was Lex Luthor, I would believe it. I
Oh
straight up
God.
would, because it's like he has the whole drip going on. He has the bald, hairstyle going on. He has that smug smile going on. This man straight up, if you were to tell me this was Lex Luthor, I would believe you, because he does straight up look like Lex Luthor. It's just like, it's so crazy how cartoonishly evil some people can be, and that's basically what we have going on here. So let's get into the main subject at hand, aka this individual right here basically saying he is bullying retailers into censorship in the name of brand protection. Now, this comment here actually is from this post here on Twitter. I became aware of this a few hours ago, and eventually, through digging and stuff, I found the Reddit post where this spawned from, and eventually the link to the actual, article here discussing the interview and everything about that. And this is basically what this guy, the head of Visa Japan, had to say. So, Kidney explained that while Visa strives to facilitate legal and legitimate purchases whenever possible, there are instances where the company must restrict usage to protect the brand. Now, before I even get into the main meat here, protect the brand, it's like facilitate legal and legitimate purchases whenever possible. You're saying that there is illegitimate purchases sometimes?
I mean, if you've worked for any major company, yeah, there are things under the table that absolutely are done. Like things that, okay, might not on paper be illegal, or might not, be over the table, but yeah, again, this is the thing with payment processors. They are absolutely trying to leverage their power over, like, social media sites. Some of those from like Japan and from other places, and this is how business is being done. And it's odd because you never get that payment processor that it springs up from Japan, because again, Visa, PayPal, all these other, like, they act like a pseudo monopoly, so they enforce things across the board through all the other payment processors, right? And it's for effectively the same reasons. Like, this is how business is being done nowadays, and I mean, now that Trump's in office, he's actually pointing this shit out. But I've been pointing this out since like 2020 that, advertisers, payment processors absolutely can just leverage power over social media. Like, they try to do this with X, formerly known as Twitter, but now they're crawling the fuck back. This is just a power play being done by companies. It's not something that has to be done. I mean, Visa can just not give a shit. But again, protect the brand. What does that even mean? Like, anime is popular in America, and now people are going to hate you for this. But the fact that he proudly says this is something that I don't understand.
Money laundering? Anyways, let's get into the main thing. So basically, restrict usage to protect the brand. What does this mean? Well, this is more or less corpo speak with saying we don't want content that could ruin our image. We don't want content that could potentially get people not to use our said service. I'm thinking to myself like, I think anyone has a debit or credit card are not looking at their companies of Visa and MasterCard and be like, these companies are scumbags because they're allowing me to use my money to buy what I want to buy legally.
No, again, this is just a power play. Like, they're putting the earnest on everybody else, or people that have their service uses their service to effectively self censor. They're and they otherwise they'll pull out. And again, this is just any basic bitch. Like, again, the advertisers did the exact same thing to social media sites like Facebook and Twitter, only to come crawling back. And oh yeah, and they even did this to YouTube for a little bit, only to come crawling back. And these are just powers that are being leveraged to force people to self censor, and in some cases, even censor free speech.
I don't think anyone is getting upset with Visa or MasterCard. In fact, censoring and stopping me from being able to use my own money is actually what would cause me not to like your company.
Yeah, there's a problem, right? They're coming between you, the consumer, and the thing you want to buy. And at the end of the day, the consumer will always lose if this happens. Like, it doesn't really matter if you're the Bible beating Christian, right? You can understand how this is going to be used to censor free speech, and you can disagree with it, even though it is anime and you may consider it degenerate. I mean, you don't have to care, but you do have to care if things like this are happening, because yeah, it's happening to anime, but when is it going to happen to other things? Like, when can they pull out based off, I don't know, political opinions? I mean, they tried to do this and it failed. But if you allow this to happen here, it'll just happen elsewhere.
That gives your brand a bad image. So, what's fully happening here for those that are not actually aware? So basically, Visa and MasterCard and a bunch of other credit card companies have been on a crusade as of late for the last few years in Japan, basically slowly squeezing the life out of certain sites where they can no longer sell products or operate as a site because Visa and MasterCard have basically closed shop on those sites. Now, effectively what this means is that there is a lot of stuff like Melon Books is a recent site I covered that houses a lot of different manga and houses merchandise. It also houses, 18 plus content as well. And the thing is, it's completely all legal, sanctioned under Japan, everything like that. It is completely fine to use and buy in Japan on these sites and stuff. And the thing is that Visa and MasterCard kind of backed out of those sites because they were saying if you do not censor your content, if you don't do certain things that we want you to do, then we are going to remove ourselves from your site and you're not going to be able to make any money. Effectively, like literally this post says, bullying retailers into censorship. Because it's like, in Japan, the big go-to credit card companies and debit card companies in Japan is MasterCard and Visa. Crazy, but that is...
Yeah, and again, they're leveraging this power even in other countries and other cultures. They're imposing their morality on them. And again, this isn't something the consumer wants, right? The consumer isn't outraged about this. Because again, the majority of anime enthusiasts are Americans. Like, they're not the ones screaming that, oh, anime needs to be censored. They're moving to anime to get away from Western schlop. But no, again, Visa is placing itself between you and the things you want to consume, the anime you want to consume, for, I guess, just to leverage power at any and all possible, like a racketeering business.
is the main usage of like a non-cash currency in Japan. And so because of that, most Japanese people, not just, let's say, people around the world, most Japanese people will instantly be locked out from even being able to buy goods from these sites because of Visa and MasterCard backing out, effectively strangling these sites and allowing them to not make any money anymore.
And I kind of understand why they don't make it themselves. Because, again, you have to see how business is being done. Like, if Japan tries to make their own, like, cash transaction forum, they'll effectively be bullied, and they try to sell it in America. They'll be bullied by American legislators, by other cash payment processors, then shut down. Like, this is why there's probably only 3, 4, 5 different social media sites where, again, in the early 2000s, you had image boards just spring out of nowhere. But then regulations come in and rules come in, and now you only really have 5 or 6. I mean, you think, oh, you can just do it yourself until you realize, no, you can't. Because, again, Visa and MasterCard are effectively monopolies. I mean, they're not really competing with each other, and they're enforcing these things. Like, MasterCard could purposefully use this as a means to get over Visa, but they don't. They do the same thing, and I'm assuming PayPal will do the same thing, and other American, money transfer sites or payment processors will do this. Like, this would be a perfect situation to just, grab up that the market, but they don't do this.
And so the only options they have is either close their doors, donations, or they bow down to Visa and be like, yes, we will do as you say, master. We will do exactly what you say, and we promise we will never do anything that upsets your company and all that. We will make sure we keep squeaky clean and censor ourselves. That is basically their options. And this has been a constant back-to-back thing that has happened continuously for the last few years. In fact, this article does cover quite a few sites that were shut down or forced to censor in their own way, like Melon Books, Manga Library Z, Dimpasoft, and Tarana, I can't pronounce that one, DL Site, Fantia.
Yeah, I heard about DL Site. Like, again, this thing, Visa or MasterCard. Like, this is, again, the actions of monopolies. These aren't the actions of companies that are trying to compete, right? And then that's the issue. Because, again, the consumer doesn't want this. This is something being imposed by the payment processors themselves.
Nico, you get the point. There is a lot of sites in Japan that are huge in Japan that are just straight up being strangled by these credit card, debit card companies. And so the fact that we have the actual head of Visa Japan going full-blown mask-off moment and just straight up saying, yeah, they better bow down to protect our brand image. I'm just like, dude, Holy crap. Like, they know they have so much power that there's not much that could potentially stop them. At least maybe.
I mean, maybe if the current establishment we have now could, whisper into Baldy's ear and be like, hey, guess what? Guess what? Don't fucking do this. Maybe it could be stopped, but again, things like this require the political will and consumer will to be done, because otherwise it just won't.
Maybe in Japan. I don't know. Because there's been even big creators that have called this out and how worrying it is. Like Yoko Taro, aka the creator, okay? The creator of Nier, 2B, 9S, big man in the industry, okay? Famous dev, okay, in Japan. He even spoke out about this recently, how dangerous this situation is going and how it is going to strangle the freedom of expression and writing and speech and all that in Japan. This is a worrying thing. So the fact that they're just straight up admitting it is some insane stuff, especially when they went on record about 5 months ago saying that no, they're not censoring things, they're not doing anything to these sites, it's some middleman doing this. Now it's very clear that that was a load of bullshit.
Yeah, they lied, and everyone knew they were lying, and because now they seem they're in the position to actually point it out.
It's very obvious at this point. One of the big things that does need to be talked about here is that what could be theoretically done. Well, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm going to assume that some of the things they've been doing definitely break some laws, maybe antitrust laws, maybe some form of laws in Japan. They're definitely doing some form of crooked stuff. Let's just be blunt here. They are being very anti-consumer, and they are strangleholding the market to where if you don't follow what they want, you're not going to be able to make any money. You're not going to be able to operate even in Japan. And so this is a very worrying thing, because a lot of people like to say they'll just do piracy. That's not the point here. This is...
Yeah, again, if they did piracy, again, these sites, they wouldn't make money. The creators wouldn't make money. I mean, piracy won't fix the issue, because, again, they make manga. Like, people on these sites make manga with the intent to make money. They work them 12 hours straight with the intent to make money. That's the point. And again, if they're giving the consumer the product they want, they should be allowed to make money off of it. So I was like, oh, I'm just going to pirate it. Well, again, then they don't make money, they lose incentive, and it just doesn't happen.
The very source in Japan being strangleholded. This isn't a Western thing. This isn't something that's happening like in Europe or America. This is straight up happening in Japan, and this is obviously companies that are outside of Japan strangleholding the market. And I think one of the big things that this is doing as well, it has some relation to a story I covered recently about a week and a half ago with the whole Sony debacle, with Sony potentially buying, Kadokawa. And I found out in that video, and I even talked about it, that apparently Japan passed some laws to where companies outside of Japan can now buy up some other companies. In this case, it's very clear that whatever laws are being passed in Japan is allowing these companies outside of Japan to slowly put their tendrils and everything and take control and force Japan to do certain things that they normally wouldn't do. That's clearly what's going on here. So
yeah, I mean, they're business moves, but again, Japan needs to understand that these are anti-consumer moves, right? Like, why does non-Japanese companies, why are they being bought up by American companies? Again, Sony's in California, and again, they have that strange culture with them. So the buying up Kadokawa is a bad idea.
Something's got to be done. Obviously, I'm not completely aware of every law within Japan because I don't live there, but this is very worrying when you see stuff like this. I think that this is obviously very anti-consumer, and credit card, debit card companies have no business stopping someone from using their own money. Because let's just be blunt here. When you get a card, debit, credit card, okay? Let's be honest here. If you've used one, you don't care about the brand image on there, okay? You're like, you're a vessel for me to deliver my money to what I want to buy legally on these sites. That's it. You should have no other role. The brand image, that's absolute bullshit. For such a essential product, for something that is so essential to daily life, that just like the fact that they can straight up censor like this and force these restrictions is astronomically insane. I can't.
Yeah, and again, and I said this even when I was in college, right? And obviously people thought I was crazy. You know, I wasn't going to 1v4 motherfuckers while I'm in college. But now we know things like this was actually happening. And I think it was the People's United, which is the thing, because it affected that movement effectively treated businesses like citizens, like they are allowed to exchange information just like citizens and be treated like citizens. But what happened is they had the protection that citizens have, but none of the responsibilities. And because of that, you have situations like, you know, in Subway where they have so much sugar in their bread, it's effectively a confectionery, so like a gingerbread house, and now they're getting absolutely slapped by the FDA because of it. And they're like, "Oh well, it's against our free speech." And it's like, okay, no, because there are consumers that will make purchasing decisions based off, you know, your product being healthy, right? And because there's so much sugar, I mean, it's not healthy. And again, saying the same things are happening here. Like, if you have the antitrust situation happening to Visa Worldwide Japan, he'll just claim the same fucking thing. And again, companies are not moral entities, so I don't think they should have the same protections as citizens. But that's just my personal opinion, especially if it comes, you know, at the detriment of the consumer. And at the end of the day, that's what this will happen with this. Like, the consumer will lose when this happens.
Not believe that this is being allowed to happen in Japan. I have heard people tell me that apparently there's some form of investigation in these card companies and stuff recently. I don't know if that's true or not. That's through word of mouth, so I'm not gonna say like that's 100% accurate. That's just what I've been told. And if that's indeed the case, I'm glad there's an investigation. Now, this investigation, I think, is happening in America, so I don't think that this might have an effect maybe in Japan, but I still, these card companies need to be reeled in. There's definitely some corruption going on here, and this man is definitely in the heart of all of it. I mean, this dude, holy crap, Lex Luthor looking, man. Like,
Yeah,
insane. But yeah,
literally just
I
said
wanted to
it.
talk about this because obviously this is a follow-up slash update to the ongoing controversy and issues within Japan with the whole censorship. This is wild stuff. Like, I cannot believe the mask off nature of this head of Visa Japan to actually do something like this. But I'll leave it at that. I wanted to talk about this. Thank you so much for watching. Be safe, stay healthy. Chibi out.
Yeah, and again, this is a problem because the people are also seeing the problems with things like these with the culture as a whole, right? And why how entertainment is going downhill, and they're looking to the anime to fit that niche, but now we're seeing that anime itself is getting squeezed by this. They also claim it's conspiracy theory, even if they admit it. Yeah, yeah, we're truly living in the Shimoneta timeline. I tried to warn us all. I don't understand that. Japan needs to get rid of all these censorship, dictatorship collectives. Yeah, but again, it's something that they're already had their tendrils into it, and I don't really know what the solution will be, unless, you know, the American government's like, what the fuck do you think you're doing? What about pornography websites? They still accept Visa and MasterCard. This is just double standard. Yeah, that's also the thing, right? I mean, it, actual porn sites will have Master and Visa, but I don't know, Japanese anime doesn't. Very interesting. Japan could sue for massive damages. I mean, Japan passed the laws, but I do think that there's like some level of consumer outrage. People will, but again, anime surprisingly enough is not as popular in Japan as it should be or as you think it is. America is the biggest buyer of anime. I think it's time for Visa and MasterCard to both be dismantled piece by piece. I mean, again, they're acting like a de facto monopolies, and I think they should be regulated as such. We should live in the dark times. I'm 30 and I grew up with anime, manga, JRPGs, and to see Japanese media getting censorship makes me just sad. Again, and Crunchyroll had these exact same problems, right? Where it effectively sucked up all these conglomerates from like Funimation, and now it's just effectively the racketeering for anime and manga going mainstream in North America was a great mistake. It was bound to happen. I mean, since Western entertainment is going downhill, I mean, yeah, people are going to people again. The consumer is a force of nature that will automatically gravitate towards better products. Leave anime and manga alone, you already screwed West movies and Hollywood, absolutely. Worldwide boycott of Visa, again, that's going to be difficult because most people have a Visa card. It does require consumer outrage. Like, we don't need to boycott our card. We need to be like, hey, look, you work for us, you work in our interest, not the other way around. He admits to brand protection, but openly says he believes people. Yeah, we need to stop being nice. Lex Luthor said Superman was not enough. But yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised this is happening. I knew something like this would happen. But yeah, I mean, it requires consumer outrage. Otherwise, nothing's really going to happen. But anyway, that's all I got to say about this. Peace.